Hello everyone and welcome to the first game we'll be covering from the 38th European Club Cup. We have a game between Magnus's club Overspiel and the club called, Wood Green. And Magnus on board one faces English Grandmaster Haria. And Magnus playing for Overspiel is pretty much the only opportunity players that are not rated like 2700, maybe 2650 will get a chance to play against him, as he will play a couple of games on board one. And it truly is an amazing opportunity. Magnus usually plays only closed tournaments, and sometimes, okay, if it's maybe in a country that organizes it, maybe out of the 10 or 8 players they invite, maybe 1 or 2 will be rated 26 something. But other than that, Magnus usually only faces top opposition. So great opportunity for Hari, and Hari is, I believe, 22-year-old. He's an English Grandmaster, and he even wrote a book called The Modernized Anti-Sicilians, Volume 1, the Rossolimo Variation, which would be great if he had the white piece, but he has black here against Magnus, so we'll see what he does. And for this game, Magnus opened with pawn to e4. Ravi went for pawn to e6. He goes for the French defense, d4, d5, and now pawn to e5. Magnus goes for the advanced variation against the French, c5, and now pawn to c3. So this is the top move, and of course, both of them play only top moves in the opening, unlike the game that I played in the previous video. Knight f3, bishop to d7, and now bishop to e2. And here, the main ideas are knight g to e7, and also you could just play pawn to f6, attack the white center right away. But he starts with a capture, c captures on d4. We have c captures, and now knight g to e7. When Magnus played e5, he went for the advanced variation, but he also gave up the f5 square. So Ravi will use this square for his knight. We have castles, knight to f5, and now knight to c3. And here we have pawn to a6. Now, I think I've already mentioned this a few videos back, but some of you have problems with queen to b6 that puts pressure on d4 and also on b2, so you can't play bishop to e3, but you can just kick away the queen with knight to a4. The queen has to go back, and then you play something like bishop to f4. If the queen persists, like queen a5, you just harass the queen. And then once the queen finally goes back, you will play bishop to f4. Not bishop g5. If you play bishop g5, then the queen will just return to the a5 square. So bishop f4 is the square for the bishop here. So after knight c3, he goes a6. And now we have bishop to g5 by Magnus. And queen to b6 is the only move that has been played in this position. But here we have bishop to e7. And is now, as of move 10, that we have a completely new game. And Magnus very happily exchanges the dark square bishops, and you will soon see why. So bishop captures, and queen to d2. So now Magnus has a light square bishop, and Ravi has a light square bishop. But Magnus put his pawns on dark squares. That means that this bishop can be very useful on this diagonal, whereas this bishop will have to figure out how it can be useful in this game. So here we have castles, rook a to e1, and now queen to d8. We have bishop to d1 by Magnus, shifting the bishop over to this diagonal, and now pawn to f6. This is black's plan always. You have to attack the e5 pawn. Bishop to a4. Now Magnus is sort of asking, will you play f captures on e5? Because if you do, I'm going to capture on c6 first. And once bishop captures, yes, Magnus gave up the good bishop, but then the monster knight lands on e5. It's on a dark square, and black will have a very hard time dealing with this knight. You will probably at some point have to play something like knight e7 to g6 to get rid of it, but then Magnus will probably consolidate, and then he will start getting his rooks into the game, and so on. So after bishop to a4, b5 is played. We have bishop back to c2, and now f captures on e5, d captures on e5, and now king to h8. Although you can play d4 right away now, it's not the best. Magnus will just attack the pawn, and once you defend it, okay, now you are defending it, but something like bishop to e4, and you already have a weird position. So not interested in that. Ravi goes for king to h8, knight to e2, and now we have knight to h4, going for an exchange of knights, which is great for black. So knight captures, queen captures, and now Magnus plays pawn to f4. So okay, he's just keeping the tension. He defends his pawn on e5, and he's just saying, I have a monster bishop, you have a weird bishop on d7. And if actually, if we moved both of these bishops off the board, then black's position would improve immensely, but that's easier said than done. Rook a to c8, and Magnus just moves it back to b1. And now queen to h6, not allowing any advances, as the queen on d2 would hang. So queen to e3 first by Magnus, now also having some ideas of maybe infiltrating on the queen side. Not for the moment, but, you know, it's a useful thing to have. and queen to h4. Now you can't really go for a rook lift as the rook on e1 would hang. So rook to c1, putting the rook on the only open file on the board. And now, while you could play something like g6, this is a very committal move, and you are weakening your king side. So Ravi just brings the queen back. Queen to e7. And now Magnus has to decide how to deal with this. But queen to e7 is sort of a suboptimal move, as it allows Magnus to play queen to h3, threatening checkmate on h7. Don't forget about our good friend the bishop on b1. So h6, and here Magnus played something that is really, really strange. When I checked on the games, this was the position on the board when I checked on my phone, and I thought, oh, okay, bishop, queen d3, and black resigns. And I was very much amazed that Magnus did not play this. And later I checked, it's actually the strongest move recommended by the engine, but not because of what I thought. I thought, okay, queen d3, black resigns. But of course, because if you play something like king g8, then you just get checkmated. Nothing weird happening here. But the real move for black is g5. And now queen guards h7, and already it's a double-edged position. In order to actually win this, you have to play rook c to e1. Really weird move. You have to move the rook off of the c1 square, so if the knight moves, you don't have to worry about any rook captures on c1 ideas. And now, while everything is defended, you will go for a rook lift and easily win the game. But Magnus does not play that. He plays a YOLO move. He plays pawn to g4, and now again, it's incredibly difficult to find a move for black here. The threat is g5, and the only move that sort of keeps you in the game is rook to g8, but I mean, who plays this in a position like this? So we have pawn to d4, trying to get active. Maybe you get this bishop on this diagonal somehow, and also maybe you can advance this pawn, but it doesn't work. And again, Magnus doesn't play queen to d3, which is winning. He plays pawn to a3, and I have no idea why he played pawn to a3. Nothing comes to mind. Maybe he went so deep into the position and saw that, okay, maybe just controlling the b4 square is useful. It gives you support for advancing your own pawn to b4, stops black from going b4. But other than that, I have no idea. But yeah, queen to d3 was enough to win, but the Magnus says, no, my position is winning. I'm just going to put every piece and pawn on the optimal square before I force black to resign. So king to g8 was played. Now pawn to g5, and here bishop to e8 sort of still holds black's position. For example, after captures, you have to play g6, but it's a really, really bad position for black. So instead, Ravi went for knight captures on e5. It's a piece sacrifice, hoping to get some queen captures on g5 action in, but Magnus just shows that it will not work. Rook captures on c8, bishop captures, and now he takes the piece. F captures on e5. Queen captures on g5 with check, and now queen to g3, offering a queen trade as he's up a piece. Rook captures on f1, king captures, and now queen to d2. So very active queen, and Magnus's king is very, very much exposed. But Magnus just played bishop to g6, and he was in this position on move 32 that Ravi Haria resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Looks like, okay, the white king is wide in the open. Maybe you can throw in some checks, but you really can't. This is covered by the knight. This is covered by the queen and the knight. You could play queen d1 check, but after that, I mean, nothing really happening after king to f2, and other than that, really not much. And look at the bishop, the difference in light square bishops. This light square bishop, an absolute monster, whereas this light square bishop locked in its room for the entire game, not really being a part of this game. He did try advancing the pawn to get it on this diagonal somehow, but there just wasn't a good time to do that. So in a lot of these lines, like in a lot of lines of the Queen's Gambit decline, for example, you have to know the exact way how to solve your problem of the light square bishop, and this is also one such example where Magnus just completely dominated the light square bishop, and there was nothing he could do. Like if you play bishop to b7 now, okay, you control this diagonal and it's very nice, but queen h4 and the threat of checkmate is just too great. You can still give only one check. There's nothing for you to do. You can give one check, and after king f2, there's no stopping queen to d8. That's just it. So really a positional masterpiece by Magnus. A good opportunity for Ravi to do something, but you see how difficult it is. He played great. He played very interesting moves. He even went into some sidelines to surprise Magnus, but the light square bishop, the difference in light square bishops was just too incredible for anyone to handle. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Magnus's first game in this year's European Club Cup. We'll probably cover all of them if they will be interesting. And for me, this is very, very interesting. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you enjoyed it. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Jeff, and I would like to thank Robert Arathun, Dirash Kumar, Kate Ingram, and Bernard Domrani for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And do check out my previous video from the Women's Under-20 World Championship. It's quite a brutal game. Involves a wonderful queen sacrifice. See you soon.